So yeah, my name is Bernie Thomas, except to our marketing director. She calls me Speedy because I'm into fast cars, fast motorcycles, anything fast. And so I'm going to talk to you about cybersecurity fast, how to quickly respond to attacks in your incident response methodologies. First step, make sure you have the remote. Okay, so currently, the SOC operators, Security Operations Center operators, analysts, we have a reputation for not being fast. In fact, I know of awards that are given out to Security Operations Centers when they can resolve things in 2 hours or less. And when you compare 2 hours or less against Conflicker, SQL Slammer, any kind of self-replicating, real-time, malicious software, it's an eternity. It's nothing. So what are the barriers that are keeping us from being fast? We have a lot of stuff. We have a lot of things to protect, and it's growing. And we never have enough people. We never have enough staff to do everything that we want to do. And we have a lot of tools, specialty tools that we buy to handle this particular kind of threat or this particular vector of attack. So we have a lot of tools, a lot of things to protect, and not enough people. And we have politics and bureaucracy. And who doesn't have those things? That's the attackers. So if you look at these numbers here from IDG research, it tells you that it's not just me thinking that we're slow. There's an awful lot of data out there saying that it takes us a long time to find things in our network and a long time to clean them up once we find them. Really, we have two opportunities, don't we? When we have an intrusion, we have that opportunity to detect the intrusion and stop it. And then if we miss the intrusion, we have the opportunity to clean up the compromise once we find that there's been a compromise. In this case, this research is showing that it's taken us hours and days and weeks to do this. And that's kind of scary, but not really scary enough, because this is kind of the fray. We're looking at all the kinds of attacks, all the kinds of compromises that are reported, and there's a lot. There's a huge number. One customer alone I've talked to, they recorded more than 20 million scans a day. They don't consider those things to respond to, but that's an awful lot of things to try to categorize. What's really scary is if you look at these numbers and you think about it in terms of what are the compromises that really count. Like when we have lost significant amounts of customer data or revenue, intellectual property, or brand value, those numbers are slightly different. So this represents everything, it's an average. But when there's considerable losses, 20 million customer records, 40 million customer records, it doesn't just, on average, take 2 weeks to find. I'm curious, I know we have a lot of security people here at this conference and in this office, in this room. I'm curious what people think about that number. How many people in the room would say it takes more than 3 weeks to find these significant compromises? Just hands, just more than 3 weeks. More than half of us. Would anyone say 4 weeks? Okay, you really have no trust in us, do you? As security operations professionals. No one's going to say 5, right? No 5s. Okay, we have a couple naysayers. It's actually 9. It takes 9 months. 9 months, on average, to find these kind of enormous compromises. So, yeah, we could have a baby. Or we can find a compromise. That should be scary. We need to be able to detect at intrusion and respond at intrusion. And if we miss it, we have to be able to immediately contain as soon as it's discovered. So why are we so slow? What's keeping us from detecting these compromises that have slipped past our intrusion detection capabilities? I'm a tier 1, I'm a tier 2 analyst. This is what I'm doing. I'm doing busy work. I'm filling out trouble tickets. I'm sending emails. I'm in meetings. I'm actually a project manager. Yes, I'm a Security Operations Center analyst, except in order to do anything, I have to do emails, trouble tickets, phone calls. John's out of office. I have to follow up with him. I'm actually managing a project instead of protecting the organization. This is why it's taken me so long. Look at our organization like this. Look at your organization like this. In the middle, you've got the Security Operations Center. We're in there, we're trying to protect the infrastructure. Around us is the infrastructure and the tools that we use. If I decide, as a SOC analyst, that I need to have the firewalls updated, and I need to do it right now to protect the organization, can I do it? I'm Security Operations Center. Do I own the firewalls? Can I touch the firewalls? The NOC owns the firewalls. Can I touch the servers? Server operations owns the servers. I can't do anything. I can open a ticket, and I can send email, and I can call, and I can hope that they get their 15-minute SLA met by doing the configuration changes that I asked for. This is why we're so slow, because the process and bureaucracy. What can we do? Where can we improve? I really like this slide. You can look at this slide as incident response methodology. Look at the chevrons in the middle where it says sense, make sense, decide, act, analyze. That's the what, the so what, and the now what. But you can also see this as a product landscape. Like every product on this floor will fit somewhere on this slide. And off to the left, we're very mature. We have sensors, IDS, IPS, SIEMs, security information managers. We have a lot of stuff that works very well and is very mature and getting better. And off to the far right, we have a lot of logging and reporting. In the middle, I call this slide the mountain slide. The middle slide, that's me. That's the SOC analyst doing my emails and my trouble ticket opening and my trouble ticket closing and my trouble ticket updating and my manually logging into the IDSs and IPSs. This is my manual process. This mountain in the middle, that's the manual part. And that is where we can improve most. How can we improve? Security orchestration. So I'm just going to pause for a minute and change subjects. Security automation and security orchestration are often confused. Security automation is simply you take a security task and you start it, and then the systems run the task until its completion. And then that task was automated. Orchestration, on the other hand, will take that task or that process that was automated and cut it up into all of the discrete automation segments that it can be. Something as small as, let's log into a firewall manager and send a command from a reference table. That'll be one automation segment. Now let's refresh the screen. That's an automation segment. So we'll take everything that would be like in an automation segment for security automation, and we'll cut that up into 10, 20, 35 different automation segments. Take those automation segments and put it in a library. Now you have a set of automation action blocks that you can select and you can sequence and you can decide when they run and if they run and do they run in parallel or is there an if-then statement between them. That is security orchestration with automation. So automation requires some trust. We're going to let our defenses or these security processes be decided and acted upon in a security automation way, or we can use automation with orchestration where we take the Lego blocks of actions and we decide either through human interaction or through building our own models when things should happen automatically and when they shouldn't. And when should a person be in the loop or not? Actually, let me give you a word picture. Because is anyone here operational in a SOC? So I'm going to shed some light on for those that aren't. I'm in a security operations center. I'm looking at my security information event manager or my email or my mobile phone texting if that's where I get my alerts. When an alert comes in, I go right to my security operations center view, which is my SIEM, Security Information Event Manager, or Security Information Event Manager, however you like the acronym. I look at that, I see the red flashing row, and the very first thing I do is I click on it to see the other views that my SIEM is going to show me, so I can see what is going on. And I'll have information like source and destination for the attack, port and protocol. I'll have some information about that attack that comes directly from the logs of the sensors that fed my SIEM. Then what? Well, I don't know enough at this point to know anything. I don't know anything about that source address. I don't really know where it's gone in the organization, so I'm going to go to another console. I'm going to start doing research. What is this IP address? Does it have a reputation? Let me go out to reputation services and check it. Is there any affiliation between this IP address and known botnet servers, command and control activity, malware, phishing? And also, every IP address, we're going to look to see, is there a corresponding URL? And then do the same search on the URLs. And that's on the outside, gathering intelligence about the attack. Now, on the inside, I want to know, where did it go? What did it hit? Is there any chance that something it hit talked to something else? So I'm going to do all this research. That's how I operate now without orchestration. Now, rewind that whole thing. Let's put orchestration in the picture, and what happens? I get an email, it says you got an alert. I go to my SIEM, I see it flashing red. I click on it, I see what's there, I right-click, and I select Act and Enrich. And all of that searching that I just described to you, that I would do in a normal day, orchestration already knew I was going to do that. So it went out and did all that searching for me, summarized the views, the information, into a nice view, so that as soon as I open it, everything that I'd want to know to make a decision is right in front of me. That is the first part of this word picture on how orchestration works in a SOC. One of three. The very next thing is, I want to know, what do I do next? Remember the chevrons? What? What is it? Now what do I do? Well, the very next thing I want to do is figure out, what am I supposed to do? My security operations procedures, my run book, my SOP, my playbook. So if I'm new, if I'm tier 1, I might be new. Tier 1 has a lot of turnover. You guys know it's hard to keep those people employed. As soon as you get them trained up, they're on Monster looking for higher salaries, and they're gone. So I might know what to do, and I might not. But I need to figure out what that is. With orchestration, you take the run book, those processes that you would normally do anyway, and you put those in this library I described for you as actions that you can choose from with orchestration. So now, this event came in, my runbook already says, when this happens, here's what you do. So I display that in the orchestration console to say, here's all the information about the event, here's the things you're supposed to do. Do you want to do it? As an analyst, I look at the trigger, the information that came in, I say, I think that's a real attack. I do want to do our normal processes, go. Now we're on to the third component of orchestration here. Orchestration will then take all these action sets to enforce the decision I just made. In other words, if I want to reconfigure the firewall, it just went out and reconfigured the firewall, and the IPS, and the IDS, and the host-based protections, and the policy for the routing policies, for what goes where, what goes to the honeypot, what doesn't. Wait, I'm in the SOC. Did I just say that I can update the firewall? Still have the same problem, right? Firewall doesn't belong to me. But what I said is true. Because when you use orchestration, orchestration is a unification tool. It allows you speed of response, immediate, real-time response without errors. And it allows you to see and affect all the devices that you want to affect from one console, single pane of glass. Your processes have to have the same capability to enable through unification. So the normal process that we do is an incident happens. After it happens, then we build an action plan. We have an incident response call. We decide what we want to do. We talk to the change control board. We go through our change control process, and then we decide on an action, and then we do it. That's why we're slow. Flip it around, and this is how it should work. Before the incident happens, I do change control. I have a change control board. I do an incident response type call, and I say, our run book says, if this ever happens, I should do these things. And if that ever happens, I should do those things. So we're flipping this around. I'm going to do the change control board review first. So I can get pre-approvals on all of these things and pre-test those automation building blocks that my orchestrator will use, so that I know that there's no damage that comes from them, and I know that I have the approvals that I need in advance, so that now, when the incident happens, the tier 1 analyst only has to click. And instead of 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour to make a decision and start acting, in 10 seconds, I've made a decision and I've closed the ticket. I've contained the whole incident. That's security orchestration. So now let's look at this again. And from an analyst, single analyst perspective, just me, I'm here in the middle. I've got all these tools around me, and I've got this infrastructure that I want to protect. Everything I've been doing is manual. Everything that I want to affect is through a process that's really a project for me, making me slow. When I do what I just described for you, and I put orchestration in the middle, now what I have is I have just one console. I'm still in the SIEM. I right-click in the SIEM, and I see another view. So I have one console, and I can interface with all of the other devices that I want to. And when I ask for a change, it happens at machine speed with no errors. Every time, again and again and again. So what do you get out of this? Easy management of large, complex responses. Seconds, you can contain, remediate. You're managing and working from a single pane of glass. And you elevate tier 1 folks like me from just doing remedial busy work to doing things that are really protecting the organization. In other words, you've just increased your security profile, your security capabilities. Now what's next? I said orchestration, security orchestration. I said single pane of glass. I said you have to unify processes along with your technology. Unification is a huge part of this. Not only do you need the speed of response, but you need the visibility from a single pane of glass. Otherwise, you have so many consoles that you need to train people on, and you have different tools that, I don't know if this laser comes across, but that second bullet in the middle, a lot of the tools that we have to work with are owned by other organizations. So that's more of these phone calls and emails I've been talking about. This is a sample framework for unification. What you get out of unification is the ability to see all the different tools, regardless of brand, type, build, version, from a single pane of glass. And you also have the ability here in the second bullet to do what I described about data enrichment. You put relevant information in front of the analyst immediately. And you end up with a much faster ability to respond to incidents and intrusions. There's a lot of talk about auditing. You can't do security orchestration without having strong audit logs. Let me walk you through this. This is a real-world example, nothing made up. This is in a customer site. This is a use of orchestration right now in a government facility. This is about someone connecting to their infrastructure with an infected laptop through a VPN connection. And what happens in this scenario is the user gets infected, they connect to the VPN, they get into the corporate network, and then the corporate network detects some sort of malicious activity. In this particular case, the most prevalent one was command and control conversation. So the laptops would be speaking out to botnet control servers through the VPN connection. And at the very top, you can see that that continuous monitoring, which we're calling that the detection part, as soon as that's detected, automated actions kick in. The very first one is creating a ticket. So on average, our customers, my customers, spend about $500,000, that's an average size SOC, about $500,000 a year just for the hours it takes to open and update and close tickets. So this customer has decided they want to have our system do that, a system do that. This orchestration platform is able to create tickets on the fly, taking all that money that you've been spending on that kind of work and giving it back to you. Also getting rid of errors in the tickets. They also wanted to go over here to block command and control server communication at their own perimeter. Now this is this is shields up, right? This is full automation. This is, as soon as the event is detected, that there's command and control conversation going across a corporate backbone, this organization decides we're going to block that at the firewalls on the perimeter. Full automation. The next thing they wanted to do, here, pre-planned actions, is their decision support. And this is when they get the pop-up that says, here's everything we know about that attack, and here's the things you're supposed to do about it. And the things they wanted to be able to do about it were update the ticket with any new information, manually click and disconnect a user, click and disable an account so someone cannot reconnect, and send emails to that person and help desk saying, hey, the reason why you're not going to have access anymore is because you have this issue with your system talking to command and control servers. They also wanted this. This is really interesting part of the pre-planned action. They wanted to have the ability to pull from the Lego action library on their own and say, I want to assemble things on the fly, such as exporting packet capture information or doing some sort of interaction with their IDS, IPS systems. All right, let me remind you, this is a real scenario, and the results of implementing orchestration here are these. First of all, this organization was seeing this kind of event 120 times every month, over and over and over. 12 months out of every year, they were averaging 120 events where VPN users had infected machines. And they were spending 45 minutes per incident just in the SOC. I'm not talking knock time, just in the SOC, 45 minutes trying to resolve that, trying to get things started so the NOC can do what they needed to do. With orchestration, instead of 45 minutes, it was under a minute response time. 98% gain in labor time. And in terms of cost, I know their hourly rate. I know this was costing them $100,000 a year. With orchestration, now the cost was $400 a year. Not $100,000, not $400,000, $400. So, key benefits of orchestration and automation. Unification, single pane of glass. Efficiencies, cost efficiencies. Speed of response and effectiveness of response. And accurate machine-controlled logging. Now, I have talked to a bunch of people at this conference, and I know that even though this presentation was kind of slanted toward the CEOs and the business users, that there's a lot of people out here that have a lot of deep technical understanding and experience in cybersecurity. So there's a bullet that's not on this slide that I want to show you. But give me a minute. So I'm just going to wear the bullet. It's not on my slides. So here's my question to you. With orchestration, you have the ability to decide anything that your network can do to any kind of event. Yeah, you save money, you're very fast, and you can contain attacks. That's not cool. What's cool is this. The kinds of strategies you can enable are, I can decide on the fly, I don't like that IP address. I don't like that traffic flow. I don't like that user, the way they're doing right now. So on the fly, I can click a button, and now that person's traffic is treated different for the period of time that I pick. I can click a button, and traffic that's coming in automatically goes to honeypots. I can interfere with scans, network scans, when people are trying to enumerate my systems and decide, what do I have? They're looking for, maybe they're looking for Windows boxes they can exploit. I'm going to lie. I'm going to say, I've got all Unix, even though I've got Windows, because I can do that. That's the kind of cool things you can do. You can take your imagination and put it in this box in the form of these rules and automation segments. And anytime you have a trigger that matches something you want to do, your network will do it. Self-healing, self-defending, and not always honest.